Episode 15. The Feather and the Arrow. By daybreak, Link and Zelda were already packed and ready for their trek back to Kakariko. Any day now, word from the great houses of Hyrule would reach them, letters sealed in wax and consequence, and Zelda knew she would have to hurry home to prepare for what was to come, whether good or ill. Though the sun had already climbed past mid-morning by the time they rose, Zelda felt the need to have one final word with the Zora King before leaving the domain.
I still have to speak with Dorifan about the moon pearl,
she said, fastening the clasp of her cloak.
to find out what he knows of it, if he's even heard of such a thing, that is.
A few moments passed without response from her knight, and she turned to see what had distracted him. Link stood several paces behind her, half hidden beneath a wobbling tower of crates and sacks, struggling to carry all their packs and belongings. Zelda blinked, mortified. She must have been so preoccupied with her morning plans that she hadn't realized just how much they had accumulated during their stay. The Zora had been generous beyond measure, showering her with gifts she now had no idea how to transport.
Oh dear, I'm sorry, Link. I didn't notice I was bringing back so much. I thought I packed light,
she said quickly, rushing to take something from his arms.
This is what you call packing light?
Link grunted, trying to balance the load that towered above his head. He could hardly see where he was going, forced to follow her voice as she guided him through the corridor. Many of the items were trinkets, more or less. Several sets of Hylian Zora garments, vials of shimmering oils, and delicate jars of coral-tinted ointment the princess had grown fond of. Among the weightier things was a chest gifted to them by the Gerudo, filled with gemstones and desert treasures, wealth that would someday help rebuild Hyrule's capital. Zelda giggled. He was right to be sarcastic. Watching him totter beneath the load, chest in one arm, 4 thatched crates stacked in the other, and not one but 2 backpacks strapped across his shoulders, she couldn't help herself.
Here, let me help,
she offered, stepping closer.
I've got it. Don't worry.
He replied coolly, maneuvering his face against the crates to keep them from toppling.
Link, you look ridiculous trying to carry all of that. Please let me help you,
she insisted, darting forward again. But he twisted away each time she reached for one of the crates, a silent duel of stubbornness that might have gone on indefinitely, if not for the interruption.
You need a hand there, friend?
Came a cheerful voice from the bend in the hall. It was Sidon, radiant as ever, his grin wide enough to split the morning light. Before Link could so much as protest, the towering prince had plucked 2 crates straight from his arms with effortless grace.
Don't worry, Link. I'll make sure we have a wagon for us to use before we make our way,
Sidon said, balancing the cargo with ease.
Thank you, Sidon. Yes, I don't believe the 2 horses we brought would be able to carry these along their backs,
Zelda admitted, a sheepish hand rising to her chin as she finally grasped how absurdly over-encumbered they were.
Also, I must speak with your father one last time,
she added, brushing a stray lock of blonde hair behind her ear.
If that's all right, of course.
Certainly,
Sidon replied warmly.
You are the Princess of Hyrule. You don't need to ask for permission here. I'm sure he will be more than willing to have another audience with you.
Then I won't be long,
Zelda said with a smile.
Master Link and I will prepare the wagons and horses alongside the others while you speak to my father,
Sidon declared, gesturing for Link to follow.
We should be ready for the journey as soon as you are done.
She laughed softly.
You hear that? Take good care of your squire in my absence, Sir Link.
The princess giggled, picturing the enormous Zora prince as Link's would-be apprentice. With a final wave, she turned toward the great hall, her steps light upon the coral bridge as the sound of rushing water filled the domain around her. After speaking with the king of the Zora, it became clear that Zelda would leave the domain still wondering about the mysteries of the Moon Pearl. As much as Dorifan wished to aid her in unraveling the riddle, even he knew nothing of its existence or significance. Yet fate, as ever, had its own designs. Upon leaving the king's chamber, Zelda found herself greeted by a surprisingly cheerful Muzu, noticeably brighter than their first prickly meeting. The elder Zora was on his way to an audience with Dorafan when he spotted her descending the marble steps.
Well, hello there. A fine morning to you, Princess of Hyrule. Is there any way that I may be of assistance to you this morning before you embark back on your journey?
He asked, tilting his head in respectful deference.
Actually, I came here to inquire on an important matter with the king. But, just like me, he was at a loss when it came to the mystery.
Zelda replied, her voice soft with disappointment as she began her descent from the grand staircase, a faint glint of sorrow in her eyes.
Mystery, you say?
Muzu's fins twitched with intrigue, his eyes widening as he paused mid-stride. Zelda, however, continued past him, the weight of unanswered questions heavy in her chest.
Perhaps I can be of some help, Princess.
He offered, falling into step beside her with an encouraging smile meant to lift her spirits.
After all, I am the overseer and lead scholar here in the domain. My knowledge is at your behest, your grace.
Zelda stopped, turned sharply, and beamed. In that moment, gratitude bloomed through her disappointment. The change in his demeanor was almost startling. So willing to help, so unlike the rigid Muzu from before.
There is something I must know. Have you ever heard of a relic called the Moon Pearl?
Muzu's eyes went wide. His body recoiled as though struck by an unseen wave. The reaction made Zelda's pulse quicken.
What does he know?
The old Zora cleared his throat, composing himself.
The Moon Pearl. Yes, I do recall such an artifact. A sacred relic safeguarded by the High Priest of Helia herself. So I have been told. But that was a very long time ago. How did you ever come to hear about it, dear princess? And why now?
Zelda swallowed hard, the pit of unease deepening in her stomach.
As a matter of fact, I only heard about it just the other day in Kakariko. Impa told us about it, but she didn't know much on the matter.
She recounted the recent events, of the assassin, his failed attempt, and the whispered motive behind it all.
I see,
murmured Muzu, lifting his gaze to the clear blue above as though searching for memories hidden among the clouds.
Well, the Moon Pearl is one of a kind in its existence. From the heavens of another realm, they say, crafted by your gods themselves. It is said that it was once used by a hero, but unlike the lad you're with now, in order to aid in his own quest countless ages ago.
And what did it actually do? For the hero, I mean.
Zelda asked, her ears angling forward in keen anticipation.
If I remember correctly, the Moon Pearl was a vessel which held a dark and terrible power, one the likes of which this world should never have to see again.
He leaned closer, the waterlight glimmering across his scaled features.
Your high priest once told me, over 100 years ago, when I was studying under him and his scholars, that the pearl is the key to a gateway to a lost realm as well, one where only evil and corruption resides.
Zelda's brows knit.
Then why would the hero ever have need of it?
The hero of that era used it to contain a certain kind of darkness.
Her breath caught, realization dawning like a blood moon.
Malice?
No one was ever certain if that is what it was,
Muzu said gravely.
This darkness bore no unique moniker, and there are no remaining records that speak of it. I was certainly lost when the Calamity struck, I'm afraid. But that is not all, Princess. The High Priest informed me that the actual pearl itself was in his care. You might have come to know it by another name. The Royal Scepter of Hyrule. The pearl was crowned atop it.
Zelda's eyes widened.
And to think, this whole time it was under our very noses. Why have it around? Why tempt fate? Why not just destroy it?
There is no mortal tool that can so much as scar it or even dim its milky twilight luster, let alone destroy it.
Muzu replied solemnly, beginning to pace.
It is of godly origin, and only by the gods can it be unmade. That is why those who have come long before us thought it wise to keep it in the care of the royal high priest, and to be forever hidden, and its truth safeguarded for all time. It is for that reason that not many have come to learn of its existence, and for good reason, I might add. If knowledge of its existence were to be known to evildoers, and if they were ever to manage to unravel its secrets and use it to its full potential, who knows what terrible fate might await the world.
A chill traced Zelda's spine. Never had she seen Muzu's expression so grave. The air seemed to still around them as the enormity of his words sank in.
Ugh, that means all this time it was in the care of that whistling fool Galavan. I can't believe we would ever leave him in charge of something so important.
Zelda burst out, pacing in indignation.
Yes, and surely he has been long perished since the Calamity.
Muzu said with a sigh, not disputing her outburst.
Which means it has been lost. But if truth be told, I'm not even sure he was even aware of the great significance of the pearl that was in his care.
What do you mean? Didn't you say the High Priest told you himself?
I said a High Priest told me, not that High Priest.
Muzu corrected gently.
It was long before your time, before Galavan was ordained into his hierarchy. Your father was just a young man then, a fresh lord made prince, and soon to be a married king. It was Grandmaster Sahasrara of the Citadel who was the high priest at that time. He was a very wise protector of the divine, and handled his position with the utmost importance and care. A very old, temperate man. Though among the wisest of all, he seemed to many to be aloof and standoffish. Those around the capital didn't take much of a liking to him. To everyone else, he was strange and an outsider, always had his nose buried in his old books, studying and versing himself on the old incantations and scriptures of the goddesses, trying to solve the greater mysteries of our world.
Muzu's voice softened, nostalgic.
It was believed by those in high places at the time that he might have gone mad in his old age, always muttering whispers through his long beard under his cloak. However, while High Priest Sahasrara was many things, crazy was certainly not one of them. He was of sound mind, simply a man that preferred to spend his time with old holy texts than in the company of others. He was misunderstood, and it filled the people with distrust of him. He was a good man, Sahasrara.
The old Zora's gaze dropped, pensive.
One day he suddenly disappeared. It was just a short time before your birth, I believe. Many, many moons passed, and he had not returned. Nearly all thought him dead, likely having ventured off to pass on somewhere in the vast wilderness.
Do you know what happened to him?
Zelda asked quietly.
I cannot say for certain,
Muzu replied, eyes narrowing in remembrance.
but he often mentioned to me when I was studying under him that he had a sacred calling in his life, and soon there would be a time to answer the call.
What? What does that mean?
This was a very long time ago.
Muzu sighed.
And even my memory, although good for my age, can be a bit swampy at times. I was a small trout in a very big pond, eager and ready to learn the ways of a scholar of the histories. But if I had to guess from what he'd mentioned to me in passing, I'd say that it was likely he journeyed to the never-ending forest beyond the Stonelands.
Zelda's eyes widened.
That's where the Lost Woods originated, correct? The one from Legend?
That is correct. You know your mythos and history quite well.
She smiled bashfully at the praise, and Muzu inclined his head before continuing.
Why he would want to go there is beyond me, but he always talked about a recurring dream where he would do so. He would go on and on about some doorway in the middle of the forest, or something of that nature. But as far as I know, those woods go on forever. The further you venture in, the thicker it becomes, and soon travelers find themselves ensnared in thick branches and swallowed up by a deadly swamp mist. And then you would never return.
Then why there? Why leave the Moon Pearl unprotected?
Sahasrara probably thought the Moon Pearl would be safe with the royal family until he returned.
Muzu explained.
It was simply unfortunate that he never did. Whether he succumbed to old age or had been slain on the treacherous road by bandits or outlaws. In either case, the proper choice was to leave the Moon Pearl in the safety of the citadel. If he had not, it could very well have been lost right there and then when he perished.
Zelda's frustration surged like Death Mountain.
Ugh, but it's lost now, and even worse, lost by the time Calamity Ganon invaded Hyrule.
Well, there was simply no way anyone could have predicted then that such an outcome would happen, my dear princess.
Muzu said softly.
And once several months had passed with no word, and it became widely believed that Sahasrara perished on his journey, well, in the disarray at the sanctuary, young Caliban seized control of the high priesthood.
Zelda's eyes flared.
How did he even accomplish such a thing? My father would never leave something so important in the hands of such an inept man.
No, he wouldn't.
Muzu agreed gravely.
But it wasn't up to your father, as was the nature of the country's politics then. He'd only just become the king, and he still needed to maintain favor with all the houses. Galavan came from a very powerful family within the capital, and with no other person who was near his rank among the divine servants under the Grand Master, he was hustled into the position. He'd served directly under Master Sahasrara, but unlike his former master, Galavan cared not for the old texts or priesthood, and simply sought to use his status to boost his own ego and power among the courts of the other castles.
Muzu's tone grew heavier, almost pitying.
Your father had been close to Sahasrara, and didn't like the idea of Caliban serving as high priest. But in such a peaceful time, why start a quarrel with the other lords of the kingdom? Particularly when most thought the position was ceremonial anyway. Master Sarsrala knew all too well the importance of the role of high priest, and that wisdom was lost when he vanished.
The elder's eyes dimmed like light sinking beneath deep water.
And with Caliban dead, and him being the last protector of the great relic, I am afraid it has been probably lost forever, Princess. And this is all I know of it.
I see.
Then her expression shifted suddenly, eyes widening as a spark of realization flashed across them.
But wait a moment. Link said he'd had the royal scepter when he took the disguise of the high priest, and the scepter had the moon pearl.
She whispered, the words escaping before she could stop them.
What do you mean?
Muzu asked, startled by the half-heard revelation.
Thank you so much, Muzu. I have to go now. I have to speak with Link.
The princess exclaimed, her voice bright with urgency as she turned and hurried away.
What's going on?
Muzu called after her, his fins flaring in confusion as she bolted down the corridor. Zelda spun mid-stride to wave back at him.
It's all right. You've done Hyrule a great service. Thank you. I must speak with Link now.
Her face shone with gratitude and resolve as she raced across the coral bridge toward the lower terraces where the others were preparing for departure. The waterfalls roared around her like a hymn to destiny, echoing through the radiant halls of the domain. As Zelda ran across the beautifully intertwined bridges of the domain, the glimmer of sun on the cascading water dazzled her eyes. The scent of rain and river air filled her lungs as she searched for her companions. She finally caught sight of them all: Link, Sidon, and the Gerudo Company, alongside 2 Gorons and a pair of Rito, gathered on the lower terraces. Panting, she made her way down toward them, nearly breathless by the time she reached the wagons. The group was finishing the final preparations, loading crates, tightening harnesses, checking straps. But what caught her eye was Link and Sidon, standing apart from the bustle and looking entirely too entertained for men meant to be working.
Link, I must have a word with you.
She said between gasps, trying to steady her breath. Link's brow lifted slightly, though his attention remained forward.
This will only take a moment, Princess.
Sidon called, flashing a wide grin that made his fins curl upward. Zelda frowned at their indifference, but her irritation vanished the moment she saw what they were doing. Link stood in the center of the main causeway that led out of the great city. Behind him waited the wagons and horses. Before him, about 10 paces away, towered a colossal Zora clad in plate armor. The man was so massive that he made even Prince Sidon look short. Crowds had gathered along the bridge rails. Zora guards, merchants, Gerudo travelers, all eager to witness whatever spectacle was about to unfold. The air crackled with laughter and anticipation. It didn't take long for Zelda to realize what was happening. Link and this hulking stranger were about to duel.
So, you're the big, bad Hylian hero everyone keeps yapping about, huh?
The overgrown, charcoal-skinned Zora jeered.
You don't look so tough to me.
Sidon chuckled as he stepped between them.
Now I must warn you, Seabass. Link did defeat the Calamity, and all on his own, I might add. And I think you may be biting off more than you could chew this time, my friend.
So you say.
Seabass replied, puffing his chest and bearing a grin with great white shark teeth.
But I think it's more likely he just had a good stroke of luck. Without that fancy sword on his back, it's not much at all.
He flexed for his friends, drawing cheers from his comrades.
It's all right, Sidon.
Link said coolly, smiling at the taunt.
I accept your challenge.
All right then. If there's nobody else contesting this duel, then let us begin!
Sidon roared, whipping the crowd into a frenzy. Zelda opened her mouth to intervene, but curiosity got the better of her. Intrigued, she slipped toward the sidelines to watch, her pulse quick with a blend of nerves and amusement.
Now, if you will be so kind as to bring forth the cuckoo feathers!
Sidon announced with theatrical flair. 2 Zora guards emerged from the crowd, each carrying a tall white feather plucked from a cuckoo's tail. The audience erupted with cheers and wagers.
My rupees are on the big one! No way the little guy beats Seabass!
One shouted.
I've seen him crush a Lizalfo's skull barehanded. The Hylian doesn't stand a chance.
Cried another. Zelda's ears caught every word. Her stomach knotted.
Are they truly fighting? Could Link get hurt?
Sidon raised his hand. The 2 men squared off, barely a foot apart. The crowd hushed.
Now you both know the rules. We are in agreement then?
Yes!
Yes.
Both replied in unison.
Then, would you both please tilt your heads?
Each man leaned back as Sidon placed a feather upright upon the bridge of their noses.
Now, Seabass,
He added, grinning.
since you are much taller, you are going to have to crouch down a bit during this next bit to maintain the fairness of the contest.
Seabass grunted, but complied. Sidon drew his hand back and sliced the air between them to signal the start. The crowd erupted. Cheers, laughter, the jangle of coins changing hands. Zelda stood on tiptoe, eyes wide. She had never seen such a contest in her life.
All this over a feather?
She thought, half smiling. Both men puffed their cheeks, blowing gusts towards the other's feather while trying to balance their own. The absurdity of it almost made her laugh.
Come on, Seabass! Let him have it!
Someone bellowed.
You've got this one, Link!
Came Riju's voice as she appeared beside Zelda. The Gerudo chief's eyes sparkled with excitement.
Get him! Show him how it's done!
Zelda could only watch in silence, heart hammering in suspense. Riju, however, wasn't silent for long. When the crowd pressed too close, she turned her fiery gaze upon them. The rowdiest Zora flinched and backed away at once.
Thanks, Riju.
Zelda murmured bashfully.
Don't mention it, Princess. Sometimes you've just gotta show these roughnecks who's boss.
Riju winked.
Next time you try it, okay? You can do it.
The contest raged on until, in a quick twist of motion, Seabass ducked and blew with all his might. Link's feather fluttered away, drifting down like a snowflake until it touched the stone bridge. The crowd gasped, the sound echoing through the domain like a clap of thunder. Zelda froze, both relieved that it was over and faintly sad at his loss.
Surely he must be sore about it.
She thought, though she couldn't help smiling faintly. Taking the lull as her chance, she stepped forward.
Now that you've all gotten that out of the way, perhaps I can have a word with...
Her words were cut short as Link raised a hand behind his back.
Actually, Zelda,
He said, flashing a confident grin.
that only decides who goes first. This is an old game me and my men used to play back in the training yard. Back when we were trainees. In those days, we used to call it playing a game of cuckoo.
A game of cuckoo?
She echoed, brow furrowed, the name alone enough to vex her curiosity. Sidon quickly stepped in.
I'm sorry, Link, but rules are rules. It was fair and square, so Seabass is up first.
The prince's grin was infectious. The crowd cheered anew as Seabass stepped forward, cracking his knuckles. Zelda, however, was stunned.
That was only the opening round.
She watched as Link braced himself, standing perfectly still while Seabass rolled his shoulders and flexed, looming over him.
Don't worry, little man.
Seabass shouted over the roar of the crowd.
You look like you can handle it, so you should live. but I can promise you won't get hurt. No hard relics, alright?
Zelda's blood ran cold.
What kind of contest is this?
Link merely smiled.
I'm going to wipe that smug look right off your face.
Seabass bellowed, swinging his arm and driving a brutal punch straight into Link's jaw.
Link!
The impact was immense, like a thunderclap rolling through the domain. Link staggered back a few steps, one leg skidding for balance, but he didn't fall. Zelda peeked between her hands, hardly daring to look, and gasped in relief. He was still standing. Blood dripped from his lip as he wiped it with the back of his hand and smirked. The crowd went silent.
Not bad. For a Zora.
Link said, voice calm but edged.
And here I thought you were gonna be all talk, but you've actually made me bleed a little. I'm impressed.
Then, with deliberate coolness, he motioned for the crowd behind Seabass to clear the way.
Oh no! He's still standing!
Seabass shouted, eyes wide. Sidon's grin widened.
Ha! Oh yes, and now it's Link's turn. You've got this, Link. Piece of cake.
The onlookers immediately parted, anticipation rippling through them. Seabass's bravado melted into dread.
No hard feelings, right?
Link called as he strode forward. The next instant he lunged, swift as lightning, leaping up to meet Seabass at eye level and delivering a crushing blow to his chin. The bridge shook under the impact. The wave of force rolled through the crowd, sending gasps echoing down the terraces as Seabass was launched backward like a ragdoll, skidding nearly 20 feet before collapsing in a heap. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the domain erupted in thunderous applause. Zelda clasped both hands to her cheeks, eyes wide and glittering.
I knew he would win.
Sidon hurried to check the fallen Zora, who was dazed but alive.
Don't worry.
Link called out with a modest shrug.
That was only about half my strength. He should be just fine.
Only half?
Sidon exclaimed, turning in disbelief. He knelt to rouse Seabass, who groaned weakly. Sidon grinned and raised his hand high.
This duel is over! Link is the winner!
Cheers erupted anew, and groans from those who had lost their bets followed soon after. Riju and Sidon both wore smug smiles as they collected their winnings. Bellaria begrudgingly slapped a fistful of rupees into Riju's palm, while Yoru surrendered his to the prince. Zelda darted forward, joy spilling out of her. Reaching him from behind, she rubbed Link's shoulders in gleeful congratulation.
I leave you two alone for 10 minutes, and I come back to find you both off having a sport with one another,
she said, feigning disapproval behind her smile.
Well, aren't you glad you didn't leave for an hour then?
Link quipped, rubbing the back of his neck. Zelda shook her head, unable to stifle a grin. But before she could reply, a heavy thud drew every gaze. The crowd hushed as Seabass, staggering back to his feet, stormed toward the triumphant knight, his face twisted with fury.
You!
Seabass growled as he stomped toward Link, his gills flaring, eyes narrowed to slits. The onlookers instinctively stepped back, the cheerful air shifting into tension. Zelda, however, stayed beside her knight, unwilling to move, half fearful for Link's safety, half fearing he might retaliate against the poor sport. Link gently placed his hands on her shoulders and nudged her back, silent but firm, keeping her from being caught in the middle. He turned to face the Zora behemoth squarely. Sidon swallowed hard, perhaps sharing Zelda's unease that trouble was about to erupt.
What about me?
Link asked evenly.
You!
Seabass began, his voice trembling with emotion, then burst into a booming laugh.
You are by far the toughest Cillian fighter! No, warrior, I have ever come across! The stories must be true, what they say about you! It was an honor to face you in duel. Put it there, champion!
Zelda blinked in surprise. Link was momentarily taken aback by the sudden shift in tone as the enormous Zora crouched and seized both of his hands in an exuberant shake that nearly lifted him off his feet.
I can see now why our great prince would want to train under you and learn your ways. One day, I hope I'll be able to learn from someone as skilled as you.
Seabass said, grinning from fin to fin.
Ha! See? I told you, Seabass. Link is quite the legend.
Sidon declared, striking a heroic pose with his crimson arm flexed skyward.
Well, I don't know about a legend.
Link replied modestly, brushing the back of his neck.
A real legend would have prevented everything we've been through.
Ah, you're too hard on yourself, friend.
Sidon laughed, nudging his shoulder.
You have done more than enough to qualify as a legend in my book.
Zelda's lips curved into a soft, knowing smile. Her gaze met Link's, and for a moment her heart swelled with quiet admiration that she hid behind a playful smirk.
So,
Sidon said, leaning forward toward her.
What was it you wanted to speak to us about, dear princess? Sorry you had to wait, but this just had to be settled.
Zelda is just fine.
She corrected gently.
Actually, I wanted to speak with Link about something he mentioned before. It must have slipped my mind to ask him when he first spoke of it.
Oh, and what might that be?
Sidon asked, curiosity brightening his tone. Link's attention sharpened at once at the mention of his name, his focus turning wholly toward her. As the remaining spectators began to disperse, Seabass waved farewell to his newfound rival, still nursing his bruised jaw. Soon the terrace cleared, leaving only Zelda, Link, Sidon, and Riju nearby.
The moon pearl.
Zelda began, hands fanned in explanation.
It was on the royal scepter when you disguised yourself as the High Priest Galavan. You said you had it with you that day. Do you remember?
Sidon blinked, tilting his head.
High Priest? Moon Pearl? What is that?
It was the first time he had heard either name. Riju, too, arched a brow, utterly perplexed.
I'll explain in a moment.
Zelda promised with a small smile, then turned back to Link.
But first, can you remember anything from after that day? Anything at all about what happened to the moon pearl?
Her eyes were intent, searching him. Link tilted his head and looked skyward, closing his eyes as he searched his memory. After a long pause, recollection dawned.
Yeah, I remember.
He said slowly.
We freed Storm, just like I promised him. And then you gave him a royal pardon.
He turned toward her with a faint grin.
We even had to abandon the carriage in the castle courtyard, remember? Because we had to sneak you back inside, dodging all those dim-witted guards all the way, huh?
Zelda felt her face flush as he spoke. The memory struck her like sunlight breaking through the clouds. The thrill of his hand guiding hers through the shadowed halls, the rush of almost being caught, the strange joy of being free beside him. Link continued, more somberly.
After I said farewell and got you home that night, I went back to the courtyard to collect my things. But the carriage was gone. Vanished. Someone must have taken it. I assumed it was the guards. I didn't want any more trouble, so I slipped away.
He frowned, guilt shadowing his expression.
I'm sorry. It was taken, along with everything else we left there. I didn't know it was so important.
Zelda stepped closer, her voice gentle.
Hey, it's all right. There's no way you could have known what the royal scepter really was. None of us did. Not even I.
What an interesting and moving story.
Riju said with a grin, her hands resting on her hips.
Well, what's so important about that thing anyways?
Zelda turned to face them all, Sidon, Riju, and Link, and took a steadying breath before explaining everything she had learned. The truth of the moon pearl, its divine origin, its purpose, and its peril. When she finished, the group stood silent, the weight of it sinking in. Link was the first to speak, breaking his usual restraint.
We're not even sure the assassin was even after the moon pearl,
he said sharply.
It could have been any staff he wanted.
Zelda blinked, startled by the interruption.
Well, what else would he be after if not the moon pearl? Impa was pretty certain that's what he wanted, and I'm inclined to believe her.
Link stepped back from the circle, arms crossed.
Look, I don't know what he was after, but we can't just assume that's it. It could have been any relic, any scroll. What if we're looking at this the wrong way?
Zelda sighed, conceding that he had a point, but unwilling to yield entirely.
In any case, for now we must assume that's what he was after, at least until we have more leads.
She turned to the others, and both Sidon and Riju nodded in agreement.
All the more reason to hurry back to Kakariko and speak with Impa. She'll know what to do. There we can form a plan to deal with this moon pearl situation.
Link straightened, his soldier's poise returning.
Well then, let us be off.
The three exchanged nods and set about the final preparations. Soon their small army assembled. Not just Link and Zelda this time, but Riju and Bellaria, Sidon, Yunobo, and Teba, along with 15 of the Gerudo's finest lady soldiers. Together they departed the shimmering domain, their path set for Kakariko, where Impa waited, and where the next chapter of Hyrule's fate would unfold. After putting the domain behind them, the company pressed into the wide plains of Hyrule. The air changed, damp river mist giving way to the raw scent of grass and blurring heat. The once paved road to Kakariko was gone, drowned beneath floodwaters that shimmered like molten glass in the sun. What had been an easy route now stood waist-deep and impassable. They would need a new path, one that curved dangerously close to the castle, where shadows still nested in its broken crown since the fall of the Calamity. Zelda trudged onward, her shoulders slack and eyes heavy from the day's march. The wagons were already burdened beyond mercy. She refused to ride. Her conscience would not allow her the comfort when others labored on foot beside her. Even as princess, she loathed the thought of privilege at the expense of her companions. The heat was merciless. The afternoon sun burned white and unyielding, searing against the open earth. Gone was the cool silver veil of the domain's mist. Sweat clung to her like a second skin, her golden hair matted and damp against her neck. Cloth stuck to her arms and back. Around her, others wilted too. Sidon's fins glistened in the light. The Gerudo fanned themselves with strips of parchment, and even Teba's feathers looked weary. Though she hid her strain behind a determined face, Link noticed the fatigue in every slow breath she drew. He had watched her soldier through worse, yet this was the kind of quiet exhaustion that dulled spirit as well as body. Without hesitation, he raised a hand to signal a halt.
This is far enough for one day. Nightfall would be upon us soon, and this might be a good place to set up camp.
The knight shouted to all the others. No one objected. Yunobo let out a huff of gratitude that sounded like a sigh of relief. His stone-thick legs ached from the miles of uneven ground. Endurance, not heat, was his enemy. Link moved among them, scanning the horizon with a soldier's precision. The land here sloped gently toward a bluff that hid them from the open road. To their rear stretched a patch of woodland, cover enough to make a mask of their firelight by night. Within sight, but still far to the south, the dark silhouette of Hyrule Castle loomed against the dying sky. Though Ganon was gone, his remnants prowled still. The plains were wild and treacherous as ever. Riju, ever perceptive, noticed how pale Zelda had grown beneath the heat. She sauntered over from behind one of the wagons, a faint grin tugging at her lips.
Here you go, princess. You look like you could use some water,
she said, smirking as she handed over a worn water skin. The contents were tepid, but precious all the same.
Thanks, Riju. Ugh.
Zelda wheezed, reaching for the bag. If Riju hadn't known better, she might have thought the princess had never tasted water before. Zelda gulped greedily, the water spilling over her chin and trickling down her neck to darken the fabric of her travel jacket. All formality vanished in that moment.
I take it you don't do much adventuring out in the open fields?
Riju teased, a playful giggle escaping her lips. Zelda coughed mid-swallow, lowering the skin beside the cart she leaned against.
Actually, Link and I used to adventure quite often 100 years ago. It's just
that you would normally be riding a horse, huh?
most of the time, yes. But it was never so hot back then as it is today. In fact, I can only recall one time that it was this hot. It was before the Calamity struck, and I was locked away at the old citadel, thinking I was never going to escape. But then, to my surprise, something wonderful happened. It ended up being one of the best days of my life.
Zelda said softly, her eyes drifting as memory overtook her. She paused, smiling faintly to herself, lost in a warmth that had nothing to do with the sun. Riju leaned in, grinning.
Well, what has you smiling about all of a sudden, princess?
Snapping from her reverie, Zelda straightened, brushing the hair from her brow.
Oh, it's nothing.
She deflected, forcing composure.
Didn't look like nothing to me.
Riju pressed.
You sure it doesn't have anything to do with a certain night we know of?
She nudged Zelda's arm and pointed discreetly toward Link, who stood some distance off, adjusting a saddle strap.
Link? No, of course not. What gave you that silly idea?
Well, when you were telling your story, you started smiling towards him, did you not?
Riju's grin turned wicked.
Well, it's just...
Zelda's voice dipped low, meant for Riju alone. The words tangled in hesitation. She wanted to confide, to finally unburden the truth pressed tight inside her chest. But fear anchored her silence.
No need to say a word, princess. It's written all over your face. More so than his, actually.
Riju said knowingly. Zelda swallowed hard.
Than his? What do you mean?
You honestly can't tell? The way he looks at you, talks about you, protects and watches over you. That boy is in love with you, my princess.
Riju said, resting a friendly arm across her shoulders.
You really think so?
Zelda's voice softened. Doubt and hope flickered behind her eyes.
And don't you worry. Your secrets are my secrets to keep.
Riju chuckled.
Thank you, Riju. I don't know what to say.
Zelda sighed, a quiet relief easing through her chest.
What you should say is not to me, but to him. What are you waiting for?
Riju laughed, louder this time. Around them, the camp hummed with activity. Soldiers pitching tents, Gorons stacking supplies, the smell of damp hay and metal filling the air. Link and Sidon were a short distance away, tending to the horses. Several heads turned at Riju's outburst, though fortunately not Link's. Zelda exhaled sharply, nerves fluttering.
Riju, shh! I can't tell him. I can't tell anybody. Don't you see? I can never be with Link. It is forbidden of me. I would be breaking the old law and betraying my people if I did something so selfish. I just can't.
Her voice trembled, heavy with grief for what she could never claim.
Oh, screw the old law, that's what I say. You are the princess. You should be able to do whatever it is you please.
Riju said, stepping back, fiery as ever.
No, Riju, I can't. Even my power is bound to the laws set forth by the goddesses. And besides, if I did such a thing, what would that say about me to the people I want to lead? The people I've sworn to save?
It says that you are real, and that you can love just as much as anyone else. And just like them, you should have the right to be with the one whom your heart belongs to.
Riju countered, her tone both fierce and kind. Zelda's heart swelled with courage at her words.
Riju,
The word snapped in half. Riju's smile froze, her eyes flared wide, and looking below to see the matter, Zelda saw. A piercing shaft bloomed scarlet through her abdomen. For a heartbeat, the world made no sense or sound at all. Then everything did. Zelda's head whipped past Riju's shoulder toward the tree line. The camp was under attack. Riju looked down at the wound, then up into Zelda's face.
Princess,
She folded, heavy and sudden, into Zelda's arms. Zelda screamed, raw, cutting, and the camp lurched to life. Steel rasped, hooves stamped, and Link and the others jumped to attention.